So, in talking about meditation, I guess the way I've been taught, over the years and the way it's kind of evolved, um, to me, it feels like, we're learning to witness and accept all of our sensory experience kind of flowing together as an expression of our being, so that we're kind of not really fixated on a dualistic um, orientation towards our life. And, we're kind of letting the experience flow together and letting thought energy dissipate without fixating on the ideas about what is happening. And gradually we notice a softening of our mind created rigid boundaries and our imagined separate identity and our environment. So this is where our conditioned mind, meets the unconditioned, boundless awareness of our real being, our essential being. And we're cultivating our willingness to receive the collective energy of being itself without self-conscious interfering. And then we're also learning to recognize our shared being with each other. So this allows the beginning of our identity shift to the body of infinite consciousness. And that's our true body. Practicing mindfulness of our breath with diligence and perseverance gradually dissolves the sense of separation born of the limited and, confined personal body and mind that we sort of imagine. We don't sort of imagine, we do imagine it. That's Thay's teaching. And this allows the beginning of receiving the aliveness of our essential being. And with contemplative practice, also receiving an opening to intuitive insights about the nature of our essential being. And we receive, its vast, the quality of its vast openness, its unconditionally accepting nature, its supportive imperturbability, its freedom from all limitations, and also boundless compassion. So, the air we breathe is infused with the energy of our life force and absorbing everybody's joy and pain. And then we can offer that compassion, our joy and tranquility back to each other. This is one way that we can transform each other's and our own suffering while offering all of our experience to the Buddha and to the Sangha at the same time. I was glad that Judith mentioned mantra practice. I've done some of that. I think I talked about it last week, so I won't do that again. But there's a teacher who I really admire, and I've kind of, when I use what they call in Hindu practice, bhakti, devotional practice. Bhakti means devotion, I think, in Hindi. And so there's this teacher, you can see her name, she was quite beautiful when she was young. I think this very ethereal picture. She was very otherworldly. Her name is Ananda Mayima. And here's a picture of her when she's older. So there's a tremendous power, in the kirtans or the satsangs they have, the gatherings where they talk about the wisdom and practice devotional singing and all that.
Roger, you need to hold the book up a little higher. Lower. I'm sorry, lower. Lower.
Oh, I'm looking at my, okay, I'm sorry. Can you see it there?
No, there.
There you go.
That's pretty good.
Yeah, there she is.
Right there.
Sorry about that. And here's this is when she was young, look at that very ethereal picture.
Goodness.
Yeah. So anyway, I thought I'd just read a couple paragraphs of what she talks about here. She says, through breath energy, consciousness pervades matter. In other words, they're the same thing. They're made of the same substance. That matter is actually made of energy, condensed energy. Everything that is alive breathes. When breath stops, you die. Physical life depends on breath. Through prana, or breath energy, matter becomes alive, or we recognize that matter is alive. Desires and a wandering mind can make the breath impure. Therefore, I advise the practice of concentrating on breathing combined with taking any one of God's names. So in Hindu, liturgy, there's all different names for different gods. And so you can make that into a mantra, whichever one you choose. If the breath and the mind become one-pointed and steady, then the mind expands to infinity, and all phenomena are included in that one all-inclusive point. If you think of God with the breath, it will purify the prana, the physical sheath, and the mind. If you breathe while thinking of God's name, you will feel the call of His grace. The self, or God, is unknowable to the ordinary intelligence, but He is not unknown to us as the life breath. If one uses the rhythm of one's breathing as a support in meditation, this increases one's power. Therefore, one should daily, in a meditative pose, in a solitary place, turn the mind inward and repeat the mantra in rhythm with one's breathing, without straining, in a natural way. When through prolonged practice, the name becomes inextricably linked with the breath, the body quite still, one will come to realize that the individual is part of the one great life that pervades this universe. So our breath is the continual flow of our life force, and when we commit to just stop making efforts to control the flow, we begin to intuitively realize that it's always freely flowing on its own. So we're receiving that energy all the time, even when we're not aware of breathing. So we begin to actually sense in our physical body that even our self-conscious attempts to control the flow aren't controlling anything. Our attempts at control are just an expression of that free flow. So we can begin to actually experience this more and more as we just allow the breath energy, the thought energy, the feeling, the energy of our sensations to arise and dissolve while just flowing by in that cosmic river that Tai teaches us about. So breath is a free gift from our source. We're invited to use it to be kind to distractions and become more tranquil. Then we can more fully receive our sensations, allow them to come closer, and experience the raw emotion without stories attached to them and thoughts. There's one interesting little thought exercise that one teacher mentioned. He says, since most of us are old, actually tonight all of us are fairly older, not real young, we can remember the typewriter. And it's sort of like he's making this analogy that if you remove you're typing on a typewriter, but if you remove the ribbon, the keys are still moving and the impressions are still there, but they don't leave any traces. So your thoughts are just like, and if you think about it, really, we can't hear thoughts, and we see traces of words or letters in our mind somehow when we think about something. But when you try to find what traces are really left, what's this thought really made of, it's almost like there's nothing there, So this enlightened teacher is saying that's what my thought energy is like. There's no holding on, there's no traces left of it. So you don't grab on and you're just not bothered by it. So thought itself is just like shadows that follows around, but don't have any power to interfere with the life force we are. So we're practicing not to block or interfere with the free expression of that life force we are. So I think that's enough. So we can have some discussion. Thank you.
Roger, I have a question. I think you used the phrase "be kind to to your distractions." Could you speak a bit more about that?
Well, you know, like in the paramitas, like generosity is the first paramita, which is practicing to welcome everything just the way it is. So when we're meditating, you know, we want to, especially if we're kind of goal oriented in our meditation, which isn't really, you know, the way to do it, but we want to have good concentration. So we get, if we don't learn how to be generous and accepting to our distractions, then when we try to, if we don't do that first and accept them and just observe them and not be bothered by thoughts about them, in other words, like where there's no, the thoughts don't leave any traces, it's just thoughts going by. If we don't do that first, then we're going to get frustrated when we try to concentrate, right?
Yeah.
Like, well, my meditation's not good enough, or my mind's always wandering on it. We make the wandering mind an enemy. But it's not the enemy, it's just our natural, you know, where our thoughts are naturally produced in our minds and bodies, just like our breathing, you know, and our heartbeat. It's just another physiological process that we go through, but we don't have to be bothered by it. Just like we're not bothered by our heart beating or our breathing if we accept it, if we just pay attention to it. So we can just, and that's part of harmonizing all of our experience together that I talked about at the first.
I'd be interested in hearing if y'all picked a mantra and used it, what that might have been and how that worked for you, or didn't work for you.
I've done quite a lot of mantra training myself, and one that I use that's really settling for me is the Tara mantra, and so that's what I went to. But to speak to what Roger was saying about being kind to distractions, one of the things that I was taught both from you and other teachers is that if the observer of the mind that is conceptually caught up, and that conceptual mind start to if we go to war with that conceptual mind, we have solidified this duality, and I'm going to fail in my efforts to let go of that conceptual duality. So I have to be at peace with whatever comes, and recognize through practice that my joy and my frustration are equally vibrant. They're the same energy. My anger, whatever it may be, my pain, and whatever emotion or thought comes to mind is equally as valuable or ineffable, empty as any other, and they're all perfectly just fine. They're all grist for the mill. And so letting go of the attraction or aversion helps me to practice letting go of that in a more coarse way with the things that happen in relative reality in daily life. So it's really important for me to recognize that what I've got is it's kind of a declared truce as opposed to a declaration of war with my distractions. Mm-hmm. And how I respond to those, because how many layers of frustration I could build if I chose to go to war with this. It would just be, me twitching on the cushion. I've done that. It's no good. Thank you. That's important for me to remember.
Yeah, beautifully. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah, it's interesting because when you mentioned how we try to solidify that dualistic view. I say try because we believe that we actually do something, like we actually solidify it, or we have the power to do that. But one of the benefits of the practice of just accepting it is, or be willing to explore your actual experience of thinking. It's like, how do you don't solidify anything, it's like you can't really control anything. You can't grab a thought out of midair. It's just something that appears and it's gone. Whenever you try to focus on thought and ask what it is, it's gone. It's just a continual flow of it. What is it? Joko Beck says, impersonal energy fragments that are always flying by. And that's part of the river that we're invited to join. We don't even have to join. We're already joined. We already are what we're seeking. But just realize that we're already totally joined, totally pervaded by this infinite compassion that is our life force.
Lee, could you explain who Tara is, and would you chant the Tara a mantra for us?
There's in Tibetan, there's a variety of taras. You've got white Tara, green Tara, but Tara is a bodhisattva of compassion that is very nurturing and supportive, and is like, for me, my perception of Tara, my feeling of Tara is like a very very skilled and compassionate, almost like a medic that I can invite into my mind space, and it's just incredibly nurturing and calming, totally accepting, not rejecting anything. And with the meditative practice and the mantra practice, what I've been taught to do is to visualize this bodhisattva and visualize their quality and recognize that their qualities are my qualities, and that there's no dualism there. This is, I am this. It's not that I can achieve it. It's, as Roger was intimating, we're always already there. We can't be separate from it. We can't be otherwise. It's simply giving up the fantasy of not having it. And the mantra goes, Om Tare Tu Re Soha. And that's, and really the mantra, if you practice any mantra long enough, you start to just experience the syllables as they're going out, and at least I do, and the conceptual connections to meaning behind any of it loses its power. I kind of become immune to it, if you will, and so the conceptual machine is kind of put on pause for a while, and I'm breathing, I'm doing this mantra, I've got this visualization going on where I'm just witnessing this unity, and it can become pretty vast and have some very interesting side effects. So I've been very grateful for the meditative practice. I've had some Mahamudra teachers that have really helped me with that, and it's been quite an experience.
Yeah,
Thank you, Lee.
Yeah, thank you. I was just going to add real quick. Also, we should remember to give away the bliss and not hold on to it. Yeah.
Well, you are the bliss, and there's no way that you could stop giving it away.
And it's always coming again, so you don't have to worry about it giving it away.
Hi, good evening.
Hi, Timothy.
I have not had any experience with mantras, though I know what they are. So I tried a couple of English words that are a part of prosperity, and I eventually just returned to my breath. And I was more focused on that than usual. My mind wasn't so given to wandering as it does. I like that idea that you can't reach up and grab a thought. It's just like it's just like effervescence or something,
Yeah.
It's here and it's gone. It's like that. It's like that with, I can remember. I'll just share this one experience. I was speaking and introducing a friend, and these words just came to me that she was uh, better than a sister. I can't think of the words, but it had to do with she was better than a sister and greater than a friend, or something like that. I can't think of the words right now. But after I said it, it was like a friend of mine came up to me and said, "Where did you read that?" I said, "Read what?" It, I had to think for a couple of seconds. What did I just say about introducing my friend? Because it was just like it was there, and that's just the way my poetry comes to me.
Mm.
That's all.
Thanks, Timothy.
I had a question. Judy, you said Thich Nhat Hanh used to say that you had when you meditate on something. Did he not? I guess sometimes you use the Chikantasa in Zen, and so I was wondering about that. I have used. I mean, I sometimes use the meditation, the one that you mani pame and lately especially this weekend when I was in a Sasenkai here, and I noticed that my concentration really improved tremendously every time I meditate for longer than the short periods. Shorter periods usually in my daily life. I usually find a tremendous improvement in concentration. So I felt that now, and I didn't feel like I needed to use anything. It was almost like an added something, to my mind that I really didn't need today.
An addition, right? That you didn't need.
Yeah, today. It doesn't mean that tomorrow it's going to be the same. I don't know for how long now. I guess as long as I keep meditating and longer than I sometimes get to. But but I was wondering if he does not. He doesn't suggest the practice of Chikantasa.
No, that would be a misunderstanding of his teaching. He also said it takes about 20 minutes for us to stop our thoughts, to stop thinking, on average. So, he's not advocating that we add anything or subtract anything. Shikantasa is a fine word to use with him as a teacher. Yeah, you could say that, even though that comes from the Japanese tradition and it means just sitting. Yeah. But, I think we need not give ourselves any strictures at all. We know if we're honest in our quest, whatever that might be. We know if we're honest. We know if we mean what it is that we're doing.
Right.
We know if we're authentic, So, yeah, and yeah, I think when I first got to Buddhism, I was so, Soto, Rinzai, how are they different? What are the rules? And after a while, it all is one. And I'm sure other people who have practiced for a while can attest to that. It doesn't even matter what branch, they're all basically leading to enlightenment.
Definitely. And sometimes one thing works better than another. This Saturday we had Roger. I don't think you were there Saturday. There was a musician showing his practice, and I can't remember. It's an ancient practice with the flute, using a bamboo, very strong bamboo, and I guess the practice started in Japan after the samurais, he said. And it was a transitional from the sword to using this bamboo. And they would have these square kind of things under their heads. I'm not really sure why. Maybe to be identified as, as in this role in ancient Japan, but it was interesting, the practice of the breath. Mainly this is what it was all about, the practice with the breath and the sound of the flute, which he said it took just one note. They had to practice for a year to be able to get a sound, because it comes from the inner breath, the breathing through, and deeply into the hara, and extending the stomach, and then slowly letting the air out very slowly and all that. But it apparently requires a lot of practice, and it was very interesting. Then he did play something else more complex, but he said that in his daily practice he only uses one note. That's his practice with the breath and the sound, and that's his meditation. How he practices, and how the air, it's connected to the spirit and all that, which is, and of course the drums with the earth and the sound of, and but I think like all the Asian practices, Qigong and yoga, and it's just the emphasis is so much in with the breathing, and it took me a while to get into that, to cut on to that. And once I started to do that, to incorporate that into my life, it has helped me tremendously in so many ways, and especially for relaxation. If I, wake up at night or whatever, or I'm restless or whatever, if I do the breathing for a few times, it immediately I'm out. It just works like wonder. It's amazing. The relaxation that it's good for the immune system. It's good for your health. It's good for healing. It's just amazing. I'm just reading a book. John Dido,
Yes.
saying it right. It's called Two Airs Meeting in Midair. It's about the cone. And it has some really beautiful passages in there. But I think there's just one part where he says that the hara, I'm not sure how, it's like the hara is like, can't remember, it's 2 inches above the belly button.
It's the lower part of the belly. That's Japanese Zen, where you breathe into the hara It's
Yeah.
the belly breathing. Yeah, so thank you for sharing that. That was interesting stuff.
Yeah.
And also, you know, in the breathing, I'll have to try more of that to get back to sleep because I always wake up early and go get back. But breathing
Yes.
into the whole body really helps harmonize the energy throughout the whole body.
Yeah. He said the here's where the spirit and the physical meet, which I never thought of that, but it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, if we breathe into the whole body, we're receiving the energy around the body. That's the subtle body or the energy body. Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
great. All right, we're pretty past the hour here.
It's 5 minutes late. It's just perfect. Thank you all so much. Thank you. So
Now we'll hear the sound of one bell ringing, right?
no, we're going to hear Norma's bell.
Right.
Well, I just
Norma's
want to
going-
say hi to Adrian, and so glad to see you here tonight. And so glad you got through your surgery, and you look wonderful. You don't look like you had surgery.
Yeah.
Thank you, Norma. So that does make me think you might need glasses, but anyway, thank you. Thank you. No, it's not my bed. It was a Norma's bed. 7 o'clock.
May the merit of this practice benefit all beings and bring peace.
Thank you so much, everyone.
Have a great week.
Have a beautiful week.
Love
We'll
you.
see you next week.
Great seeing you, Adrian.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you all very much.
Be well. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.